Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. Look, our goal today is to really unpack this massive, foundational mindset shift that's absolutely crucial for building true wealth. We're talking about moving away from that traditional, just work hard mentality and stepping into the actual mechanics of financial literacy. It sounds kind of simple on the surface, right? But honestly, this shift, it fundamentally rewrites how you view money, how you view risk, and really, how you view life itself.
Think about this for a second. The love of money is the root of all evil. Now, contrast that with the lack of money is the root of all evil. I mean, those are two completely opposite, fundamentally different worldviews. Now, imagine being a young kid and hearing both of these statements thrown around with absolute authority by the two most important guys in your life. That is exactly the core conflict we're looking at in our source text today. It's this total battle of philosophies that hits the nail on the head when it comes to the divide between how the middle class and the wealthy actually view the world.
So where does this whole journey start? Well, it begins with Robert Kiyosaki's classic text, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Picture this, it's 1956. We're in a sugar plantation town out in Hawaii, and we meet 9-year-old Robert and his best buddy Mike. Now, because of some totally random school district boundary lines, these two guys end up being the only quote-unquote poor kids at a public elementary school that's just packed with the kids of plantation managers, doctors, bankers, you name it. And man, these two are desperately, urgently trying to figure out how the heck do we get rich?
And the huge divide between the two father figures in Robert's life, it brilliantly illustrates this whole struggle. On one side, you've got Robert's biological dad, his poor dad. Now, this guy is highly educated, super brilliant, eventually goes to Stanford and the University of Chicago, but he's always struggling financially. His core advice? Study hard to find a good company to work for, right? Standard advice. But then, on the flip side, you have Mike's dad, the rich dad. This guy is an 8th grade dropout, but he is quietly building this massive empire of warehouses, stores, restaurants. And his advice? Study hard to find a good company to buy. I mean, wow, what a staggering difference in perspective.
So what actually pushes these 9-year-olds to take action? The catalyst is something I think we can all relate to. There's this wealthy classmate, Jimmy, and he's taking a bunch of kids up to his family's beach house for the weekend in a brand new Cadillac. The catch? Robert and Mike aren't invited. And why? They're literally told straight to their faces that it's because they're the poor kids. Ouch. That sting, that awful feeling of being excluded and left behind, well, it lights a fire. They decide right then and there they are going to figure out how to make money.
Their very first business venture? It is hilarious and honestly a little too literal. They crack open a science book and decide they're literally going to make money. Step 1, they spend weeks running all over the neighborhood collecting empty toothpaste tubes. And keep in mind, it's the 1950s, so these tubes are actually made of lead. Step 2, they fire up a glowing hot hibachi grill right there on Robert's driveway, and they melt this lead down in a steel pot. And step 3, they carefully pour that molten lead into plaster of Paris molds. What were the molds for, you ask? Nickels. Yeah, you heard that right. These 9-year-old boys basically started a totally illegal powder-covered nickel counterfeiting ring.
So naturally, Robert's dad comes home, he's got a friend with him, and they see this fiery, dusty, toxic mess in the driveway. He sits the boys down and gently has to explain what the word counterfeiting actually means. The boys are just totally crushed. But, instead of grounding them or freaking out, his dad offers this really supportive perspective. He tells them, you're only poor if you give up. Most people only talk and dream of getting rich. You've actually done something. It's such a great reaction to a, technically illegal business. But he also admits, hey, I don't actually know how to make money. So he points the boys toward Mike's dad, the rich dad, to learn the real mechanics of wealth.
So the boys manage to score a Saturday morning meeting with Rich Dad. They show up at his modest house, but the place is just buzzing. You've got restaurant managers and construction supervisors constantly in and out. It's a huge contrast, these wide-eyed, innocent kids and this blunt, no-nonsense businessman who finally bursts out onto the porch. And he doesn't give them some cozy classroom lecture, no. He offers them a flat-out deal. You work for me, I'll teach you. You don't work for me, I won't teach you. Take it or leave it.
Well, they take the deal. But the reality of it? Oh, it is grueling. 10 cents. 10 cents an hour. For 3 hours every single Saturday, Robert and Mike are put to work in one of Rich Dad's tiny convenience stores. There's zero air conditioning, so the doors have to stay wide open, meaning every single car that drives by blows a fresh, thick layer of dust right onto the shelves. Their job? Dusting canned goods. For 3 agonizing hours. That is 30 cents a week. Even back in 1956, that was literally only enough to buy 3 comic books. So yeah, the childhood excitement wears off pretty fast. Now, Before we get to the boiling point here, I want to share this really profound piece of philosophy from Rich Dad. He says there's a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary, poor is eternal. I mean, that mindset is the absolute foundation of everything he does. But, 9-year-old Robert, he doesn't get this yet. By Wednesday of week 4, Robert hits his absolute breaking point. He's missing his weekend baseball games, he's sweating buckets for absolute peanuts, and Rich Dad hasn't even spoken a single word to him since that very first day. So Robert marches right into Rich Dad's office, totally ready to demand a raise or just quit on the spot.
But Rich Dad, he completely flips the script. Robert is in there throwing a tantrum, calling Rich Dad greedy, accusing him of exploiting kids, and Rich Dad just smiles. He tells Robert he sounds exactly like most of his former employees. And then he drops the bomb. He reveals he underpaid Robert on purpose. Why? To simulate the harsh, unforgiving realities of real life. He looks right at Robert and says, most of the time, life does not talk to you. It just sort of pushes you around. Each push is life saying, wake up. That miserable 10 cents an hour, that wasn't just cheap labor. That was life pushing Robert.
Rich Dad goes on to map out exactly how people respond to these inevitable pushes, and it's so true. Some people, they just give up. They submit to safety and spend their whole lives completely terrified of taking a risk. Others get angry and fight back, but they fight the wrong things. They blame their boss, their crappy pay, their dead-end job. But a few, a very rare few, actually welcome the push. They learn the lesson and they move on. So let me ask you, just reflect on this for a second. When you experience that kind of financial friction in your own life, which of these 3 reactions do you default to?
And that brings us right to the ultimate crossroads in financial philosophy. On one hand, you have the rat race. We all know this one. It's the trap of hoping that a new job or maybe a slightly better salary or some extra benefits will just magically solve all your problems. It's playing it safe, doing exactly what you're told. On the other hand, you have the wealth mindset. This is that rare, incredible ability to recognize that when life pushes you around, it's not a punishment, it's an open invitation to grow. It's your chance to adapt and figure out how money actually works instead of just endlessly trading your precious time for a paycheck.
It all boils down to what Rich Dad tells a very frustrated Robert. He says, if you realize that you're the problem, then you can change yourself, learn something, and grow wiser. Look, that is a really tough pill to swallow, right? Especially when you're busting your back for 10 cents an hour dusting cans. But it is profoundly true. Most folks spend so much energy trying to force the entire world to accommodate them. But changing yourself, upgrading your own mindset, and actually taking accountability for your financial intelligence, that is always easier and way more effective than trying to change everyone else.
Which leaves us with a final really vital question for you to ponder as we wrap up today. When it comes to your own financial friction, are you just waiting around for your boss to change, or are you finally ready to change yourself? Look, building real wealth isn't just about memorizing some stock charts or staring at spreadsheets all day. It starts with this exact psychological shift. It's about taking control, stepping up, and choosing to become financially literate. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparks a massive shift in how you view the pushes in your own life. So keep learning, keep growing, and take charge. Catch you next time.